All right, good evening. We're here for the Improvement Services Committee meeting for Wednesday, December 9th. We are joined here by Alderman David Denning, Alderman Jerry Wisbiski, Alderman Joe Moore, who will be arriving shortly, Alderman Brian Danziger, and of course staff, including Director Steve Grenier, personal trainer for Chris Kringle. All right, item number 1, approval of the minutes from the regular meeting on October 28th.
Move to approve.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Item 2, approve the agenda. If we could make the changes for item 10, item 20, and then the rest of the agenda in order.
So moved. Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Top notch. Item 10, request by Alderman Tim Duane to consider a reuse day 4 times a year when people can put items such as windows, metal doors, cabinets, etc. out to the curb for pickup. Held over from the 2015 Improvement Service Committee meeting. Staff?
We have placed in your packet a memo that was prepared by Chris Pirlat, the Operations Director, regarding advantages and disadvantages of a quarterly reuse program. It's been suggested or requested by Alderman Tim Duane that 4 times a year residents would be able to place reusable items, things such as windows, doors, cabinets, etc., to the curb for pickup and reuse by any other resident. The advantages that we have listed include that there could be a reduction in landfill fees, diverting potential trash to other residents for constructive reuse, and that there would be no need for the city to add additional staff to implement such a program. What we see as potential disadvantages is that with some of the material that's currently going to the bulk waste facility, as we're loading that material out for disposal at the landfill under a controlled environment, anything that has salvage value or scrap value, our staff is currently taking that material, scrapping it out, and we're using that revenue to help offset our landfill costs. So this could potentially tap into that revenue that we're currently using. Currently, residents are storing items until they can place them out, and Habitat for Humanity has a restore that provides a similar type function that this could adversely impact an entity such as a restore. Most residents typically don't salvage from curbside debris for various reasons, not the least of which that is currently illegal under our ordinance. Once material is placed to the curb, that is considered to be refuse. There would have to be some administrative oversight and enforcement activity that goes along with that, with a potential cost. One of the things that we're most concerned with is the fact that something like this could, and as we made the move into automated collection, we talked about this with the committee. We're still struggling with folks understanding the 2 bulk disposal and 4 overflow weeks that are available to residents. And I get probably close to 10 a week requests from residents. That's just the residents who are contesting charges, saying that their bulk fee that was assessed to them should be rescinded for whatever reason. If we go with a reuse program, even if we put out, currently we're putting printed materials at every cart at the beginning of the year. When we have the bulk waste, curbside bulk waste collection and overflow weeks, those are on the printed calendar that goes out at the beginning of the year. We also notify the media, we put it on our social media pages. We do press releases reminding residents of those times. If we also introduce sort of a restore at the curb, if you will, type week, we're concerned that that would be potentially confusing to residents if they put it out, well, I thought it was this week, it's actually next week, then they got a charge for it, and they didn't intend for it to be a charge, they intended it to be picked up by another resident. I mean, we have a fair number of those that happen already, where people put something out, and well, that was not intended for collection, that was put out with the intent of somebody picking it up at the curb. Okay, and those are being charged bulk costs. So we think it is potentially confusing with some of the other programs that we currently have. And if this material is placed out for reuse and somebody doesn't collect it, either the residents are gonna have to pull it back in, or we're gonna wind up back at the curb doing bulk collection at the curbside. So that's what we see on it. Definitely welcome your comments.
Well, I'd like to hear from Mr. Dwayne if we can. I know you're the one who brought this up, sir, so.
Yeah, I actually got this from my boss, who's a retired Navy chief who traveled the world. In Germany, they have a reuse day, and it is exactly what we're saying. You put your items out there for people to just come and pick up, such as tools, windows, 2x4s, or whatnot. This is stuff that'll go to the landfill, otherwise go to the landfill, which costs taxpayers money and pretty much pollutes our planet. So I'm just looking for other alternatives other than just putting your bins out there, throwing your garbage to the landfill. Or people, I'm worried about carbon, pollution, people traveling out there, that people going to the restore, traveling out to the restore, picking things up, it's a double drive, versus if you just put your 2x4s out to the curb. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I picked up a 2x4 in my life, or something that was unique. There's a lot of artists nowadays that can reuse things. It's gonna save taxpayers money in the long run, at the landfill. It's going green again. I'm just gonna use carbon footprint, less transportation, less landfill. This may create less handouts from government programs. If you have a stroller or such, people can pick that up and not have to go to the government program and pick one up, which costs taxpayers money. I'm also looking for ideas for networking. I know I'm on Facebook with a Facebook page called Green Bay Recycle. Any idea to help create less landfill use? I'm asking you as a committee, INS, Public Works, just for ideas. I hope you can support it in some way, shape, or form. We need to have this a community effort. We gotta look out for our grandchildren. I mean, I have grandchildren. We need to take care of each other, but most importantly, to reuse machines, tools, whatnot. I know you can bring these to St. Vincent de Paul, your restore that you mentioned at the communication level. Those are all great aspects of reusing, but they cost money. I don't want this to be like a rummage sale or anything like that, where you have to purchase things. So with that, I thank you for listening and see what happens.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Dwayne.
Sure.
Mr. Moore?
I was just gonna say, you know, some of these places, I'm not sure if the Restore does, but say, for instance, Manor for Life thrift store, some of the other thrift stores will actually go and pick stuff up. So if you got one vehicle, drive around picking things up, like you said, you know, people running back and forth with stuff. I mean, that's one way to kind of cease it, but it's having that resource of information available for people to know if they have an item they need to get rid of, these are options for them. They can take it to one of the dumps, they can take it to one of the centers, they can call to have it picked up. Beach Road Recycling now is a brand new business that's over there, and they're actually going out and picking up appliances and stuff from people now. Of course, and it's recycled, you know, and everything they can use out of it, they use out of it. I think that there's other options out there. I worry about, first off, with the confusion, like Director Grenier had said about, you know, bulk days and overflow days, about what people will be able to think they can put to the curb during a reuse day. And now you're up to, you know, 20% of the year now, you've got stuff sitting out on the curb next to your bins. When you're up to 8-10 weeks, you know, that you'd be kind of closing in on here. I guess that's kind of the concern side of it, but there's a lot of people who are going to take advantage of this. There's still going to be people going there, driving all over Green Bay, picking stuff off the curbs so they can take them home, scrap them out in their garage, burn copper in their drill, or in their grill next to the garage, burn all the rubber off their copper, so that they can cash in on that, at the recycle companies. Hey, I'm in an old neighborhood, I see this stuff. So, that's still gonna happen, but you're also gonna have people that are just gonna go pick stuff up, bring it home and have a rummage sale anyway. They got it for free and they're gonna go sell it, or they're gonna put it on your Facebook page and say, hey, I've got an appliance, or I've got like you said, a tool or a stroller or whatever it might be, a vacuum cleaner, and say, I got a vacuum cleaner and I plugged it in and it works and I'm giving it up for $5. So somebody will drive over there and give you $5 for it. So it can almost have an adverse effect on what we're trying to do. I appreciate what you're trying to do, more than most probably, as far as being clean and recycling, and I'm big at that, like urban farming kind of thing, I really love that. So I'm certainly open to suggestions. I'm seeing a lot of negatives on this. If we can, how do you specify what you can and can't come out, and what's the difference between a bulk day and because on the bulk days, there's just as much stuff getting picked up by collectors and people driving through the neighborhood as there is if you just have 4 extra bulk days.
And thanks, Joe, I realize that could happen, and I was thinking that and I talked with Tom earlier, if you put something out there on a reuse day, even if it's 2 times a year, where there's a 2 times a year bulk, I don't think it'd be less confusing. It would be less confusing if you had it maybe 2 and 2. But people pick up stuff and re-rummage it anyway. They go to rummage sales and always re-rummage. People have businesses doing that. It's gonna happen, we can't change that.
Right.
But as far as the Restore and St. Vincent de Paul going around picking things up, that's great. But again, they're using the carbon footprint. They're going to get it, and then people got to go to the store to purchase it. And I'm just trying to lessen that by just having one trip. If you could look at that, maybe in the future, maybe we'll see that, what it could have affected. Yeah, that's all I had for you.
Mr. Netting?
Just a comment.
Oh, sorry, Mr. Moore, were you
I-
not?
no, I-
Sorry.
One thing I've seen in my district, and I don't know if this is legal or not, but when people have rummage sales, for example, on a Friday during the summer, by late in the day on Friday or early Saturday, they'll have items not at the curb, but they'll have them on the driveway or on the inside of the sidewalk, basically on their lawn, with a sign "free" on it. And is that legal?
It's outside of our jurisdiction,
Because
as
it's not
long
in
as it's
the
not out, well, as long as it's not out there for an extended period of time where it would be considered to be a nuisance, then inspection would likely not prosecute or enforce that.
What about the location?
The location actually is the more appropriate, because the minute you go into the right-of-way,
Right, you don't want it in the
That's,
curb.
yeah.
then that, according to ordinance, that
Curb
is
set out.
designated as set out for
Yeah.
collection.
I just throw that out as a suggestion, because that's what I've seen in my district, where people have items that they want for free. They put them, right on the inside of the sidewalk, on their lawn or on their, in the driveway with a free sign on it, and people do go around and pick it up. I know that's a little disorganized, and might not be entirely what you want, but I would have to agree that people are confused by over complex laws, and people will see one neighbor who's put something out at the curb, and before you know it, everybody thinks they could put it out at the curb.
Thank you, Mr. Netting. Mr. Wisbisky,
A motion to open the floor.
do we have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Sir, did you want to comment on this? If you don't mind just stepping to the podium, stating your
Sure.
name and address, sir, and then if you'd like to share any thoughts with
My
us.
name is Tom Shingen. I live at 1408 Fox River Drive, that's De Pere. And the reason why I'm here is because I'm a board member of the Northeast Wisconsin Apartment Association. And we are trying to get more involved with the topics are going to be coming about, in the city. And this is one of them that we're looking at, thinking, okay, is this going to be another cost to the taxpayers? Okay, that was one of the major concerns we had. you know, but if it's gonna be, you know, as Tim was saying, you set it out there, and basically it's up to the
Up to the
person
picker.
who wants it to do it, then it's, you know, it'd be no additional expense, other than if there's gotta be some kind of policing that has to be done, I suspect.
That's
about-
the rub, sir, is the fact that there'd have to be some enforcement issues most likely after the fact. If there is confusion and people unfortunately are unaware of the duration that it's out there and, again, what's appropriate, not appropriate for what's being set out to.
And I guess another thing is, you know, such as we have duplexes and stuff like this, so we have tenants, they think, oh, I can set this out there, okay? They don't bring it back in,
You get the bill.
we're the ones that are gonna end up with some kind of notice or fine or whatever. That was our concern, that was the reason why I'm here this evening, so.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Moore, go ahead.
Yeah.
Sir?
Tom, I was just gonna say, thanks for coming. The Apartment Association, I think, is wonderful. I wish that there were more members in it.
Okay.
But this is an organization, I don't know if you guys are very familiar with it, but I mean, self-police each other. There's monthly meetings, there's constant education among all these landlords and the directors. These are volunteer positions, so I think it's great that you're attending and getting involved in some of the government meetings.
Well, thank you.
As you know, the rental properties are kind of some of the bigger issues that I think non-present landlords that we have, especially in this committee. So I think it's great. Thanks a lot for coming.
Thank you.
I like to ditto that.
I would just like to comment, and Tom, thank you for you coming also. I talked to you earlier about several other things, but, you know, cost of taxpayer, we haven't even fielded any numbers yet. I mean, what's the cost of the landfill usage? It's huge. You know, like I said before, if you put something out, I would even say even once a year. If you don't have that back out into your house within 24 hours, well then, you know, maybe we can pick it up and charge you for it. I mean, we do that already. We do it already.
No, and I'm not disagreeing with you, Mr. Duane, but I'm wondering if that's really the nature or the intent of the program, because I see what you're saying. If they put it out and forget about it, then that's our responsibility to pick it up, and we would charge accordingly. But what concerns me, and I know you're smart enough to understand that, and I think most people are, I think it's a matter of confusion, though, that some people might set it out, thinking that once they set it out, they're done with it, and then we would have to go through, pick it up, and then, again, somebody would be charged. And one scenario I think he brought up is if there's a move-out, let's say, and somebody puts a bunch of stuff out there under the pretense that it's going to get picked up, and then they just leave because they moved, and then we have to go and pick it up. Unfortunately, the landlord would get charged for that. And then again, I'm seeing some potential challenges and some very difficult discussions regarding why this policy was set up the way that it was.
Well, maybe you can help me out. And I wish Mark Story was here. There's a song called I think, Land of Confusion, so it's constant.
You bet. It's by Genesis, 1984. You bet.
We're just a
Thanks,
teenager.
Dan.
Yeah.
Or Brian.
Phil Collins,
I
lead singer.
don't have anything further unless you guys do.
Well, first, do we return to regular order? Is there anything else?
Make that motion to return
Do
regular.
we have a second?
I'd like to add.
Oh, well, let's finish this because I think you can just add on your own. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, I'm sorry, Mr. Wisbisky?
I just want to add, que sera, sera, that's another thing.
I'm like, all right. Well, I think I have a couple options here, Mr. Duane, and staff. I don't want to belabor this on you guys and put more of a burden on you, but I like the intent and the heart of what this is trying to do. But I think, like you mentioned, Mr. Duane, it's a matter of education and awareness, and I think that is something that the city can step up in. Mr. Moore has already mentioned a number, almost a dozen organizations in the community that already facilitate something like this, including the very own GB Recycling page that you're talking about. One thing maybe that we could consider, and I guess I'd have to talk to legal about this, is seeing if we could provide more education and awareness on our website and on our resources, saying that, look, instead of throwing away some of the stuff that you have, because we're trying to reduce our overall footprint and our overall, filling of the landfill, here are some options that you may want to consider instead. And again, I know from a legal perspective, we're not supposed to promote any individual business as a civil institution, but if there's something that we can do, though, to help with awareness and education and guiding people to where they can put some of these items, I think that falls well within our purview. And that's a way, too, to see, all right, does the education actually show an increase in donations to the Restore and to Salvation Army and some of these other locations? I know staff, if you'd have any objections to, if something was put on the website to that regard.
Absolutely not. We'd be more than willing to work with an entity to come up with a list of those types of resources that are available. As a matter of fact, I would have no objection to us including that type of printed material in the annual refresher information that we submit to residents and having it as a link for additional resources off of the city's, our DPW sanitation section webpage.
Oh, go ahead, Mr. Dwayne.
If I may, Brian, that's exactly what I wanted to hear, Brian.
Perfect, all right.
I was at the EDA at 4:30, and Kevin Vonk introduced the website where people can go on from California, business, if they want to purchase land for business. Dave Bennett was there for that. Perfect example of what I want to see.
Okay, well, I think
mean,
that's
education,
sure.
opportunities. So
I think that might be a good place for us to start, if that's all right, Mr. Dwayne, and just kind of see how the traction is on that. But as a secondary thing, maybe for future consideration, because I'd like to, I would like the committee to at least start there and get your vision, out there. A secondary option might be, which I've seen in other communities, because I did notice this on the agenda. Other communities have actually done a tagging system, where it's a free tag, and it's this big green tag that they actually affix to an item, and they can only get 2 tags per setup period. And I think, looking at it, it wasn't Austin, I think it might have been Portland that had this, and they have something similar to a reuse day. But they basically have green stickers that that people can affix to those items. That way it's not just a junk heap, they're limited to 2 items that they can put out there. But it's monitored and identified by that green tag, all right? And by using that makes the pickers, I'll use that term if I may, aware that it's an item available for free. It also prevents any of the DPW staff from accidentally disposing of it. But that tag, though, again, has similar limitations to as we do, where it's only valid for that one weekend. And then that's it. And then if that's still out there, they know, in fact, they're actually targeting themselves. If that tag is out there, next week, if it's not picked up by them, it'll be picked up by us, and it'll be charged accordingly. So it's actually a way of policing the system a little bit, too. What was that?
let's do it.
No, well, that
There's options out there.
there's
I
options
think that's
out
what
there.
we're saying.
Yeah, there's options out there.
Okay.
I'd like to start with this if I could, Mr. Dwayne, to kind of put your vision into place. But I just want to let you know that there are some things I've researched that are potential viable solutions down the road. All right? Mr. Visky.
I would hope that they would purchase these tags. It would cost them something, because who's gonna furnish them, who's gonna
They-
pay for them, who's gonna issue them?
It's actually
There's some
funny.
cost involved.
People can, as long as they have a color printer, they can actually print them off the website.
Oh, cool, okay.
Yeah. And then affix them.
Backwards me? okay.
No, sorry. It's funny, this technology, hey? So if it's all right with you, Mr. Dwayne, what I'd like to do is, do I have to go through legal on this first? Or can I
I
just
don't think so.
request staff to provide materials or include materials on the annual reminder or pickup information? Schedule, thank you. And thank you, I'm struggling with words today. Schedule and website for some of these resources. If you don't mind, Mr. Dwayne, I may reach out to you as well on some of the resources that you've looked at. Mr. Moore, I know you've got some as well. But I think we can put together a pretty comprehensive list that falls well within our civic guidelines and ethical guidelines. So I'd like to make that motion if that's all right with you.
Excellent team effort, thank you.
All right, thanks. Do we have a second on that?
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Dwayne. I appreciate your help on that.
So what I have is because,
Thank you for your time.
and
Thanks,
I
guys.
want to make sure you're aware of this, because it's going to sound a little bit harsh when we look at it with,
It's because you're an engineer.
well, it's because of the way the agenda item came onto
I
the agenda. So what I have is a motion by Alderman Danziger, seconded by Alderman Wisbisky, to receive and place on file the request by Alderman Dwayne to consider a reuse day, and request staff work with Alderman Dwayne to develop educational materials to provide alternate end uses for these reusable materials.
I like that.
Very good. Top notch. Thank you very much, Mr.
Not
Dwayne. I
bad for an
appreciate that.
engineer, eh, Joe?
That was pretty good. That didn't sound harsh at all.
All right.
So it's customer sensitivity classes you've been
I
taking.
didn't want Alderman Dwayne to take offense to the receive and place on file to his item.
Oh,
I appreciate
yeah,
that.
You were
You
just
bet.
clarifying. Very good.
Good team effort, everybody. I like how collaborative and constructive this group is. I love it. Item number 20, report by the purchasing manager. Item A, request approval to award a 2-year contract for wastewater monitoring to Badger Laboratories for $280,260 with options for 3 one-year extensions by mutual agreement. Those are 3 one-year individual extensions by mutual agreement. Staff?
We're actually going to turn it over to the purchasing director.
Director?
Okay, I will direct your attention to page 3 of the handout. The quote summaries are a little out of order. I was trying to be green and make maximum use of the paper and not have one summary per page. On
Page
the-
3 of 5, right?
Yep,
Yes.
got it.
On the top of page 3 is a summary. We did an RFQ for a 2-year contract for wastewater management with options for 3 one-year extensions. Only Badger Laboratory, who is the incumbent, responded with a quote. I want to bring you back to 2 years ago when we bid out the 2013-2014 contract. We had 2 bidders, and really there were only 2 eligible bidders that can do this work. It was Cardinal Environmental and Badger. And I don't know how many of you were on the committee at that time, but they literally tied to the penny. And the INS committee made the ultimate decision to award the contract to Badger because they were the incumbent and there was no learning curve to train a new contractor to do this work. My buyer reached out to Cardinal and asked why they didn't bid this year, and they felt that we had a qualified vendor, that their rates would be similar again to Badger, and they elected not to expend the time and energy to quote. The good news is that Badger, anticipating competition again, knowing how close they were last year, actually reduced their rates so that on a comparable basis, this year we'll be paying $140,130 per year versus under last year's rates that would have amounted to $146,792. So just the appearance of competition drove the incumbent to reduce their rates. So we're recommending the award to Badger under those circumstances.
Excellent. Do you have a motion? Do
Motion approved.
you have a second?
Second?
Any discussion?
With
Mr.
discussion?
Wisbicki?
Did you say that, let's see, I'm looking at vendor number 1 is Badger.
Yes, and on the left
Oh, I
is
see.
the
That's
historical
historical.
information.
Yeah, it's
And this other, the other one is historical, okay.
It's still better,
Yes,
yeah.
I should have pointed
What was the
that
other
out.
bid? I'm trying to find the other bid. Okay, I thought, wow, that guy was right on the ball.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you.
All right, we have a motion, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Item B, request approval to award a 3-year contract for security services for the parking division to G4S Secure Solutions USA, Inc. for $249,537 with options for 2 individual 1-year extensions by mutual agreement. Staff?
I'll call your attention to the top of page 2 of 5.
Okay.
Excuse me, we have to retract that
4 or
statement.
5?
Top of page 4 of 5.
Yep.
This was an RFP, meaning that we considered several different criteria and evaluated them accordingly in addition to price. I think Mr. Perlott was on the evaluation team. The highest scoring proposer was G4S, who was the incumbent vendor. They earned a total of 93 points. They were the second lowest bidder at $249,536 versus $244,578. The reason they earned more points had to do with the high score they got for professionalism and communication. Easy for Mary Scanlon to reach out to the vendor and also even to the individual guards and get a hold of them as necessary, and also timely reporting. The other thing in their favor was they have a very high retention rate. versus the other vendors, and so they scored well in that regard. So they were the highest scoring proposer, the second lowest bidder, and we're recommending the award to G4S.
Motion approved.
Do you have a second?
Segment discussion.
Mr. Moore?
What is their location?
They're out of, they have a regional office in Milwaukee, but they have their local office is over on Fisk Street, right by Sears.
I just want to make sure there was a local presence,
Yes.
that's all.
Uh,
Thank you.
How many hours of service do we get for 249,000? I know it says the lowest hourly rate, but.
We spent about $80,000 a year, this is over 3 years at $249. So the price did not go up that much. G-Force is our current provider. They do a great job for us, like Rick said, and they showed very communicative.
Cool.
I don't have the information with me on hours per week.
Yeah, I didn't,
I'm
I didn't,
thinking- I'm
I can
remembering somewhere
give that
between
to
50
you.
and 60
So I'm
hours
just
per
wondering
week.
about how much per hour are they getting, or do